what is data processing? Okay. Now, data processing in a nutshell is this. Let's say somebody brings you a whole bunch of accounts receivables and accounts payables from accounting. You have this big old pile of papers, and what they want you to do is design a presentation to show whether a company is being profitable or it's starting to lose money. Then you, as a data processor, would write a computer program, take all that data and feed it into that computer program, and then have that program produce either a pie chart or a bar chart or a line chart or something to show the company whether they are actually profitable or they're losing money. Okay? Now this can be done with scientific data as well. Okay? If you have a whole bunch of distance data that they give you and they want you to determine whether a meteor is headed for Earth or not, then you take all this distance data and you put it all together and you show whether the meteor is actually headed towards Earth or if it's just going to bypass Earth. So anyway you slice the pie here, that's basically what data processing is. Now, a data entry clerk would be the kind of person who would take all this wonderful data, he would actually enter it into the computer into some kind of a database, and then you as the data processor would take that database and then finally write your program that would actually make it into a bar chart, a pie chart, or some kind of a bar chart or something like that. Or a line chart or whatever. Okay? So you have a data entry clerk that actually enters the data into the database, and then you have yourself, which is the data processor that takes that database and turns it into something presentable for the general public. Alright? Now, one of the biggest questions to me is, why do I consider myself a data processor? Okay. I grew up in the days of the TRS-80. Now, for those of you who do not know what a TRS-80 is, I would suggest you look up Tandy Radio Shack and you look up the TRS-80. Because those machines at one time really existed. Yes, I am very well versed with the 5 1/4 inch floppy. I'm very well versed with the 3 1/2 inch floppy. I know all this stuff. Okay. Now then, back in those days, what you had was an environment where in a lot of places you had these things called dumb terminals. Now, a dumb terminal basically was a place where you entered a lot of data, and that data was then sent from the dumb terminal to a mainframe. Now, those mainframes today are called servers, and the dumb terminals today are called client computers. Both are a little more sophisticated, but the concept is exactly the same. Okay? So, and in some places you still have dumb terminals and mainframes, otherwise known as servers. Okay? So anyway, those were the days I grew up in. I've run database programs. I've run Access, DB9, you name it. I've run XML, so I'm very well versed in databases. Thank you very much. Now here's what happened. One day somebody decided to come up with a nice little politically correct term called information technology. So then this person forced everybody that was in the data processing game or any other computer game whatsoever to suddenly take up the title of information technology. Now, if people want to take up that title, that's fine. Don't force me to take up that title. That's the first problem I have with that title. Let's see. How dare you come to me and say, I have to suddenly take up that title? Ridiculous. I'm not going to take up that title. I don't like that title. And I have another reason why I don't like that title. But let's get on with this. The first reason I didn't like the title was because it was forced on me. I have a D-Pro certificate. I don't have an IT certificate, I have a D-Pro certificate, and I better make sure that I continue having a D-Pro certificate. I'm very specific about what I do. Now, the thing is, one of the questions that's asked to me is, can you apply your data processing skills in real life? Yes, you certainly can. If you are a speed reader and a memory expert, you can amalgamate a whole ton of information from a whole ton of books, assimilate it in your own mind, not having to put it on a computer, not having to write a program for it, but assimilate it in your own mind, and then make presentations like what I do on YouTube. So yes, you can be a living data processor. And I'm doing quite well at it, thank you very much. Now here's the second reason why I don't like the title of information technology. Because too many people have been taking it up. I have seen 16-year-olds go in their bedrooms, they whip up a little HTML, and all of a sudden they are information technology. I've had people coming in from the cable company. All they do is they spend their days hooking up routers and computer modems. You know, those cable modems? That's all they do all day is hook up routers and cable modems. And that's all they do. They don't do anything else. And all of a sudden they're IT. I don't consider them IT. I've written too much computer code to be considering them IT. I've written a Visual Basic, COBOL, Fortran. I've written in the original GW Basic. I've dealt with databases. I've run server-side script. I do know how to run JavaScript, thank you very much. And VB script. I have played with Linux. I know all this stuff. I've built 4 computers, for crying out loud. So, for them to come in and the only things they do is hook up routers and cable modems, and then for them to call themselves IT and I have a clue as to what that actually would mean, is an insult to me. Now, let's start with excluding some people. Number one, if you have a 16-year-old and he goes into his room and he's writing server-side script and he's working with XML and databases and you name it, he would be considered more like an IT. I'd have a lot of respect for him. If you have a cable guy that comes in here and he says, well, I'm hooking up your modem and your router, but most of the time I spend my time fixing data repeaters and working on the great big satellite dish on top of our corporate office. Now that would be considered IT. I consider that. And yes, I did meet a project manager who had never written a single ounce of computer code and was telling us how he wanted a computer project done. How do you stand there and be a computer project manager and not know a single lick of computer code? I'd like to know that. And I have met business analysts who stand there, they have never heard of the FASBs before, they have never read a FASB in their entire life, yet they are business analysts. I'd like to know how that's possible. And for those of you who do not know what a FASB is, that's from the Financial Accounting Standards Board. I have read them, I have owned them, I actually own them, and I know what's in them. So there you go. So, that's why I object to IT. It's far too inclusive. Now, if they were to take those little 16-year-olds and just whip up a little HTML and kick them out, and take those cable repairmen that have absolutely no idea how to put a computer together. Oh, and I love how they want to play with your computer, but they've never put a computer together. They've not written a stitch of code. They know nothing about registry keys or nothing, and they still want to get in your computer so they can install your cable modem and router. You're not getting in my computer. Mine's a ghost server. What I mean by a ghost server is I have server-side software in it. I just haven't formally implemented it on the internet. That's why people just don't suddenly get into my system, because I don't want them in there. I'm not ready for them to get into my system yet. One of these days they will be, and there you go. But there you have it. There you go. So. Anyway, that's what's going on here. And that's what I was trying to tell you. But now you know what a data processor is. I still hold the title. I refuse to take up the IT title because of how many people are misusing that title. And there are a lot of them. You'd be really surprised how many people misuse the IT title, so I will not take it up. And I don't like it imposed upon me. You want to be an IT, that's fine with me, but don't don't stand there and tell me I am, because I'm not. I refuse to take it. If I'm going to get a certificate, it's going to be a D-Pro. That's my certificate. I didn't become a living, breathing data processor for nothing. Now, one final thing. One final thought. Does becoming a living data processor make you a better person? Not especially. It doesn't make you any nicer. It doesn't mean that you care more than anybody else. It certainly doesn't mean that you're better in any way, shape, or form. It just means that you're unique. You can claim a unique title. That's about it. But to stand there and say you're a better person because you're a data processor, not really. The only way you become a better person is to implement your data processing skills for the benefit of mankind. That makes you a better person. If you're not using your skills for the benefit of mankind, then you're no better than a bulldog. I didn't get up on YouTube and say, hey, I'm a big old data processor, you have to respect me. I got up on YouTube and said, hey, I'm a data processor, and I'm going to give you a ton of information that will benefit you. And you should respect me because I was kind enough to do this for you. See the difference? You don't have to respect me, but it'd be kind of nice if you did, because I was very nice. I could have just said there and say, hey, I'm Chief. But I decided not to do that. There's been a lot of people that really needed what I had, and I decided to give it to them. Just because I'm upset that people are misusing the title of IT doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to beat up every IT in town. I just want them to quit using the title IT without really knowing what that actually would entail. I'd like to see project managers actually know what kind of computer coding is going on before they stand there and tell us what kind of projects they want done. I'd like to see, and I run into this too, there are people that will stand there and say, oh, I worked with little video editing software and made a couple of video presentations, so therefore I'm IT. Did you write the software that made the video editing software capable, fully capable? Did you make your own video editing software? I don't think so. You took a piece of video, you clipped a couple of things, and all of a sudden you're an IT. No, you're not. When you write video editing software, then we'll talk. And I have music people that say that, well, I've edited a couple pieces of music, slapped them together, and all of a sudden I'm IT. No, you're not. With enough training, I could do your job. The question is, can you do mine? The answer is no. So, what I'm trying to get people to understand is just because you've put a couple pieces of music together, or a couple pieces of video together, or you've whipped up a little HTML, made a pretty little web page, or you've come in and installed a router and a modem, that doesn't make you IT. What makes you IT, or even D-Pro, as the case may be, is you've actually written computer code, you've worked with a database, you've actually built a computer, that kind of thing. That's what makes you IT or D-Pro. Don't take up a title that you don't know what's involved. Do you understand? Maybe if they'd come in there and say, okay, IT is a title, and it's very specific, and if you do certain things, then you can call yourself IT, and if you don't, you're not. Might have respected the title a little more. But that's not what they did with the thing. And I'm sorry they didn't. So, making a beautiful web page does not qualify you, as far as I'm concerned, to be anything. If that web page can function, and it can do high-end graphics and the whole 9 yards, and it runs a database, then we'll talk. I have a great deal of respect for anybody that can take a full-blown database and all those numbers correspond to colors and lines and stuff that you would find in SVG and VML, and it creates a whole blasted super presentation. I mean, if you're creating a visual presentation using database technology, now that's IT. If you're just standing there popping up a couple pictures here and there and making a couple of pretty fonts and all of a sudden there's your web page. No. I can do that. So hopefully you're getting the idea of what's really going on, why I object to IT, what's been going on, so on and so forth, and you have a pretty good idea of what real data processing is all about. Let me tell you something. Like I said, you can actually take data processing and you can use it in real life. You really can. And I've been doing it quite successfully for 3.5 years now. And I fully plan to continue going on with this. So, there you go. There you have it. I will tell you more in a future video. Stay tuned.